Hey everybody, welcome back to the shop. It has been more than a minute since the last video I posted, and that is really because I've been doing a lot of non-filmable projects. It's really been keeping me busy. I don't want to get into that right now. If you want to know more about that kind of stuff, you should really be listening to my podcast. It's called We Built a Thing. I do it weekly with my buddies Bruce and Drew, and I go through a lot of detail on all the stuff that's going on week to week throughout my life, so I'm not going to get into that here. For this video, I figure it's time to do an updated shop tour. It's been a couple of years since I moved into this shop, and I've changed it up a little bit since the original shop tour in this building. So I want to go around, I want to show you the way things are set up, I want to show you a few new tools that have come and gone since then, and I'm gonna do my best to point out where you can go find more information, like for example, this workbench. I have a whole series on this workbench. I have plans available for this workbench. I'm going to do my best to point that out, but just know that anything I don't say, check the description. I probably thought it after the fact. You can go find the additional information there. Also, leave comments. If there's something that you want to see more details on, you want to know why I did this the way I did this, or that the reason I did that, ask me. Leave it in the comments. If I get enough feedback from that sort of thing, maybe I'll make a dedicated video about this or that or whatever. So if you're curious, leave comments, leave questions, and let's get into the current layout of this shop. So since I already mentioned it, let's start here with the workbench. This has been kind of the anchor in the middle of my shop since the day I really started Gunflint Designs. This is my original design. It is a double flip top on the ends here, so you pull a couple of pins that squeak real bad, and you can flip tools up when you need those tools. And when you don't need those tools, you drop them down, they're out of the way, and you have this nice big work surface to work on. Like I said, there's a whole series on building the bench, building the flipping, building the storage. Go check all that out. There's plans available. I'll leave links like I've already been over. But what I want to point out is this has been with me since the start of all of this, and there's not much I would change. The only thing I can come up with is if I were to grab a straight edge and put it on here, it's started to sag just a little bit right here in the middle. There is a lot of weight on this. And so from end to end, it's sagging a tiny bit. I mean, it is out less than 1/8 of an inch in the center, probably more like a 32nd from here to here and then back up to the end. So I don't even know how I would change that. I could put another wheel under here, but then it would end up getting high centered on an uneven floor. So really, I am thrilled with this thing, and I jump up and down it, and I put hundreds, if not 1,000 pounds at a time on top of this thing, and it holds up to everything really well. I like it. Got a nice end vise on it. I've got lots of storage underneath it. Currently, like you saw, I have a spindle sander underneath this one, and I have nothing underneath this one, because this is where my planer used to be, and I would feed wood from that end through this side, and it was always pointed different directions. But now I have nothing underneath this one. It's actually screwed down, so it's a little bit more solid, because I don't currently have a tool that I need to have minimal access to since I upgraded to the bigger planer. I think we'll come back to this in a little bit, but that is the workbench. This is my assembly table. This is my do everything space, my big flat surface to get a lot of stuff done on. So now if we come over to this wall from the workbench, this is my miter saw station. Lots of storage, lots of classy walnut, really makes the place look cool. I used to have this over on this other wall, 90 degrees from here, and I had to move it here mostly because I recently added a new dust collection system to this. Now there's a couple of videos about that a few episodes back. I'll link to those. But that really dictated where a lot of the stuff in here had to go. This is the main dust collector is over there. We'll look at that in a second. But the straight line of the whole trunk, the whole main line comes right here and comes down to this thing. And so now I have really good suction right at the tool. And so even though it's not really enclosed, there's not a shroud around it, when that's running, this thing doesn't make a lot of dust because it's pulling so hard that everything that kind of comes up gets sucked through and sent away. But because all of the tools kind of had to fall into a certain position, the miter saw station went right here. All the way around this is where I have most of my, need to reach quickly type tools. All of my layout stuff is over here. there's a little bit of decoration and cool memorabilia for the shop up above this. I do have a nice window. I can see the nothingness out there. It's a picked cornfield right now, and it's so treeless and flat that you can see the earth curve away on the far side. In the middle of winter, you swear you could watch polar bears walking around out there. We've got storage. I keep a lot of stuff in here. I've got a track saw. This is a lot of my shipping materials are in here. So when I get an order on the website or through Etsy, I can just grab the shipping materials, go in here, put it all together on the workbench, and it's close at hand. I used to keep it stored far away, and it realized I was wasting a lot of time walking to it. And then I moved some tools that I used less frequently out into the other side of the garage, out into my wife's part of the building where she parks her car. Sandpaper stuff, sharpening jigs, more sandpaper, nails and pins and brads for different nail guns. I've got all my most common used screw sizes here so that I can grab, drills really quick and get the drill bits in there. I used to have this over by my drill press, which you'll see in a minute, but I found that I was using it with the hand drills way more than with the drill presses, so I was walking 12 feet around over to that wall, coming over here and putting it in this. So this is way faster, way more convenient, and then I have a second set of drill bits that just stays with the drill press. So this is a faster way for me to drill holes. And then I've got all my electronic cordless, let's go with cordless, hand tools up on the wall. I have always had DeWalt stuff. That was like the first set of drill and driver I bought when I bought my first house. In fact, that's this one, and I haven't killed a battery or killed a tool yet, and I have abused these badly. And just like you should know, once you're into a battery platform, you kind of stick with that. So I've got a lot of DeWalt stuff. I don't have a complaint about any of these. I did end up getting a framing nailer from Milwaukee because it was on super clearance at Home Depot once, and I was actually going in to buy screws to put up a stud wall quick, and I thought, $50 in screws or clearance nail gun. I bought that instead. So that got me into the Milwaukee battery platform. So now I have some Milwaukee M12 stuff, some M18 stuff, some DeWalt stuff. I like all of it. I don't have a complaint with any of these tools, and I've used them all pretty hard at this point. That's kind of it for this wall. Let me turn you back to the drill press real quick. So this was my grandpa's drill press, and it is a monster. I don't know what it weighs, but it's all two of us could do to lift it up onto this platform. This platform I actually had in my shop back in Wyoming 4 or 5 years ago now, and it was scrap materials and thrown together because I needed to fit a spot and I didn't want to go buy any lumber to do it with. And it's worked really well. It's gotten this right up to a nice workable height, and there's a little bit of storage, but it's not well thought out. And after all those years and all this weight and that moving, the whole thing has way too much shimmy to it. So this is kind of on my short list of projects, is I'm going to build a new platform for the drill press to be on. And I've got a lot of ideas that I'm going to work out with that. But anyway, so right here we have the drill press. We have the drill press fence behind it. We've got mag switch stuff for a bench vise, a machine vise. I think we'll call it a machine vise that holds it down here so you can get a rock solid grip on weird parts and pieces and make it really repeatable too between the fence and that vise. That's really nice. I mentioned mag switch. They've got a lot of really cool stuff, and I do have an affiliate code for that. You can get a good discount on that. I can't think of what it is off the top of my head. It's probably some version of Gunflint or Gunflint 10. That's down in the description. And maybe I'll make that a quick warning here too. If I can think of what my code is, or if I can think that I have a code, I'll throw it out here real quick. Otherwise, check the description, like I've been saying redundantly several times at this point. So let's move down the wall. Actually, let's look up the wall for just a second. Up above, I've got, what are they, 10-foot ceilings? I've got a lumber rack up there above the drill press, and then on that whole far wall, I've got lumber racks. And the reason for that is obviously I have some unused space up high on the wall, so why not put some lumber up there? But I live in a very humid part of the country, and I have a dehumidifier here in the shop, so it really helps to kind of stabilize my wood if I can keep it in here as long as possible before I use it. So I've got a wood shed across the yard. It's a single stall garage that's just for the wood that we cut off on the sawmill at the tree farm. But I can't store all of that in here, and I don't want to have to try to climate control a whole other building. So whenever I know I've got a project coming up, I will usually take lumber from that wood shed, throw it up on the lumber racks, and have it be in here and acclimate to this more less humid room, this more climate controlled room. I also have a furnace over here. You saw that hanging there when I looked at the other lumber rack. And then I throw a window air conditioner in the window behind the camera in the summertime when it's hot. So it really stays between, I would say, 55 and 75 degrees in here, maybe 80 degrees in the summer on a hot day. But I keep it pretty well controlled. And I try to keep, I really don't ever work with the garage doors open. You can see I've got 2 garage doors over here. In fact, that one, I took the tracks off the wall. I don't even have those anymore. That was to accommodate the dust collection piping. Those tracks are off the wall. These ones are still here, but I unplugged the garage door opener because I have so much stuff that tends to lean against that door. I don't want it to come up by accident one day, maybe a kid pushing a button. So I don't really work with the doors open. I would like to, I guess, but because of that climate controlled nature that I kind of try to maintain in here, I just don't. I just leave the door shut. I have nice big windows so I get light. I can see when people are coming down the driveway. I can see when people are coming out of the house. So even though I'm not outside, I can see outside really well. But let's move the camera real quick and I'll show you some more stuff. All right, we talked about the cordless hand tools over here. I've got my clamp wall, and this does take up a lot of real estate, but it's so much nicer to be able to grab it quick, especially the ones right at kind of shoulder height, because I use these all the time, clamping stuff to the bench, you know, doing glue ups, whatever. And if I had to go into the other room, which would be a nice place to store it, or if I had a rolling rack, which I'm running out of room to store a rolling cart at this point. It's been nice to have it here, and I don't see any reason to change it at this point. I do have my battery chargers over here. I used to have some over there, but they kind of got redundant, so I just do it here real quick. This little cabinet is my most used, you know, liquids, finishes, cleaners, mineral oils, that kind of thing. The stuff that I need to grab quick. I have more bulk further away in a different corner, but this is the stuff I want to get to fast. I do have my SurfPrep sander up here. When I have to do a long series of sanding, I'll always grab that and I'll hook it up to the bench. And then I have my dust extractor down here, plug it all together, and the big flat workbench works really well for that. Speaking of SurfPrep, that's another one. Code in the description. They make great tools and they make really good abrasives. So again, I don't remember the discount, but I can give you a discount if you go check the link in the description. And down here, I keep a little bit of scrap wood. You never know when you're going to need it, but I don't let it get any bigger than this. Usually I have a walnut, actually looks like that was mostly maple. Maple, walnut, cherry, and kind of miscellaneous. This is usually like plywoods and oak that I don't use a lot of these days. But this is really all I will allow myself to keep for scraps because I have access to so much lumber. Why keep little stuff around? Most of it ends up going and starting fires in the furnace in my basement. I've got a wood burning furnace down there. So it actually goes to use in a different way. It makes BTUs, it heats my house. Some stuff is so ratty, so junky, there's not a lot of sense to even doing that. Some stuff, if it's got finish on it, I don't like burning that, having that go up in the chimney and stick to the sides and creating a creosote buildup. So natural woods I put through there. Otherwise, stuff like chunks of plywood or stuff with finish on it or stuff with epoxy in it, I have a brush pile out back where branches fall down from the trees. I throw some lumber on there and I just burn that in the wintertime, and that's a good way to get rid of that stuff. All right, looking a little further down this wall, we have my 8-inch helical head joiner. I love this tool. I do wish at times that it was a little bit bigger, But with 8 inches and a bigger planer, you can do up to actually 16 inches pretty easily. The way I do that is you have to take the guard off, you plane it, and you end up with a shoulder on where there's a jointed surface and a rough surface. And then I have my quickie sled here that just goes in the joiner, or in the planer, and then you run that shoulder along this edge, and then you can plane a double wide board. And once that top surface is flat, you take this out, you run the board in upside down, and you send that through, and now you've flattened a whole board. So, love my joiner. It's here. I've got dust collection going over that corner. Speaking of the dust collection, I've got a T here. Open the blast gates and I go to different things. This one I left long on purpose because I do have a few rolling tools. We've got a drum sander here and a router table there, and I will roll those into position and then take this off and hook that up to those to do dust collection for those mobile tools. When I had the original setup of the shop, this was sitting against the furnace just kicked on, so that's going to be frustrating, but I'm going to power through it. The original setup of the shop, I had this joiner against the little short wall between the 2 garage doors. Now that is where the dust collection system is, and because you have to have such a long in-feed and out-feed for a joiner, this is the only thing on this wall normally. Those rolling tools will end up in position over there, but this is the spot. When I moved it, so the point I'm trying to get to is I used to have a Frankenstein's version of a Harbor Freight dust collector that I modified, and I thought that was good enough. Well, when I went to move this from that spot to this spot, there was so much dust packed into the cabinet, I don't know how I didn't start a fire. That's where the motor is. The motor and the belt are right down in here, and it's shocking how much you couldn't have forced one more piece of sawdust into that. So that's a lesson for me, is take the back off once in a while, check and make sure there's no dust buildup, and clean it out if I need to. So we mentioned the planer. This is the, I would say, newest tool in here. When I got the dust collection system, we had a whole design figured out for how all the layout was going to go, and then I thought, I've always wanted a bigger planer. There's a few on sale right now. I'd rather not have to rearrange the whole shop another time if I decide to add one of these in the future. So I decided to add one right then and there. So all at the same time, I put in a new dust collector and new planer, which threw a monkey wrench into the plan because the dust collector was supposed to go right here. Clearly it's not there now. We rearranged a whole bunch of stuff, got it here, and honestly, I can't think of how this would be any better as far as workflow and space. You know, I have a lot of stuff packed into not a very big space right now, but I still have big open areas. If I needed to build a table, I could get it right here. I can roll my bench away. There's a lot of space to work with, which is important when setting stuff up. I've had a shop, I've been in shops where you feel claustrophobic and you have no space trying to walk between all of your stuff. So I'm really happy with this, but that being said, I do have mobile bases even on some of the biggest, heaviest tools, so I can roll them around if I need to. So coming over here from the planer, this is kind of like my tool island. I can get all the way around it. I can get long materials through just about any of this. I did set some of this up with, I think, 9-foot distances in mind. Maybe it's even 10 foot to the wall. So I can do relatively long material before I start bumping into stuff. I've got my saw stop table saw here. This is the 3 horsepower one. It is on a mobile base, so I can move it around if I need to. If stuff really starts to get long, I can open that garage door and I can run it out if I have to. This is kind of my under saw storage, you know, keep extra blades and stuff in there. Just miscellaneous stuff in here, jigs and feather boards and clamps. Keep my push sticks up here. This is another mag switch thing. It's got a magnetic base, which is really cool. Just gets in there and out of there if I need it to. And then these are replaceable. You've got a nice plastic handle here, and you've got plastic screws and then an MDF foot. So when you chew this all up, or if you do something stupid, you're not actually setting off your table saw, your brake on a saw stop, or wrecking a blade. I do love this saw. It works very, very well. I've never managed to bog it down. I've never knocked it out of whack. Even moving it for 1,100 miles from my last shop to this shop, you set it up here, you think you're gonna have to re-square everything, and I checked it all and I was actually solid. So, big fan. I've got my orange Home Depot bucket down there. I actually keep buckets kinda all over the place. That's just a really easy way for me to go junk wood, throw it in the bucket, and then when the bucket's full, I can get it out and either take it to the basement or take it to the burn pile. I do have a T-track table back here as a outfeed table. I've got the grooves cut in it so the runners can come through across the table and not bump into this. Every once in a while, I walk into the corner of it and have to realign it. This is a project video. That storage under that wing was a project video. I'll link those below. There is some storage underneath here. I think this is actually a Rockler plan that goes into their material handling cart, which is what this is all based on. I keep T-track hold down clamps and stops and stuff in there, shop vac type hoses, miscellaneous junk. It's not really that important. And then my bandsaw is back here. It's pretty centrally located in the room too, so that it's far enough from each wall that I can feed long stuff through it without having a problem. And it's also offset from the table saw enough that I can use almost the entirety of the fence capacity before I would run into the side of this pushing material through. And the table saw is far enough this way that I'm not hitting the dust collection system that I'll show you in a minute. But again, I've got a drop down for the dust collection. I've got a 5-inch one going straight to the planer, and then I've got a T going to the table saw and the bandsaw. And this bandsaw is interesting because it was actually my wife's grandpa's, and when he passed away, my wife's grandma gave me the saw. Well, it had a matching door just like this down here, and I couldn't bring myself to cut a hole in it for dust collection, so I made a unnecessary walnut lower bandsaw door, and the dust collection on this is fantastic. You can probably see some dust here right now. That's actually because the last cut I made was so brief, I didn't want to turn the dust collector on. It works, I would say, about 98% effective for dust collection when I have everything running. So right here is my Oneida dust collection system, and this thing is a monster. You turn it on, and it is a slow buildup, and then it sounds like a jet taking off when it really gets up to speed. But we've got the straight section coming out before a 90, and that helps keep the power, the suction power, and then it tees off to all the other stuff that we've got going on there. And then a 55-gallon drum with a viewing window so I can check how full it is, and a warning light when the radio sensor, I think it's radio, my brain's crapping out at the moment. There is a sensor in there that can tell how high the dust level is getting, and when it gets to that point, the red light goes off and says, hey, go empty the thing. So then I've got my hand cart here, and then I can just take the ring off and pull it out the garage door right there and haul it off to the burn pile. Over here is my lathe stand, and there's a video on this whole process too. Back when I was doing a lot of lathe work, that was really important, was to have this big, heavy bench that didn't shake around a lot, but it also needed to be mobile. I don't do much lathe work at this point. This is kind of, I keep toying with the idea of taking this completely off of here and having this space for something else, but every time I think about doing that, then I end up using the lathe for a quick part. This is my grandpa's old disc and belt sander. This is a Craftsman. It's way older than I am. And it was kind of a lucky coincidence that it fits right on this cart too. I had originally designed my own dust collection cart that this was supposed to go on, and I started building it out of spalted maple because I had it and I had tons of it, and it turned out too pretty. So I altered the design a little bit, and now it's a TV stand in the house, and this ended up just going here by default. Half the time, this isn't even in here. This whole cart isn't. It goes out that single man door and out into the garage side. Because sometimes I need more space over here. You know, right now I've got some plywood sheets set up. And a note about that, I don't know if I'm doing myself any favors or not, but I figure the whole point of plywood is that all of those layers glued together is helping to keep it more stable. So when I have multiple sheets of plywood, I try to keep them clamped together, hoping that they add some strength to each other and keep my raw materials from warping while they're waiting to be used. Probably by tomorrow, this will be moved out into the garage because I'm going to have to go stack a bunch of walnut right here and get that ready and acclimating again to the environment for a big project I have coming up. I am trying to squeeze this video out just before I have to hit the ground with another one that's going to take me about 2 weeks of just head down focus to get it done. So let's grab the camera and I'm going to move you over to what I call the Gunflint Designs Advanced Technology Center. Welcome to my Advanced Technology Center. This whole side of the shop is dedicated to the CNC style of equipment. Here is my Gunflint. This is the big one. I used to have this mounted up on the wall. It was a space-saving thing. You could actually hang it from brackets on a wall and operate it up there, and it worked great. The problem was kind of work holding was an issue. You know, you're fighting gravity all the time. You're trying to clamp a board up on the wall. And once it's held there, the robot would work and do a great job. But I decided I was using it enough and that was enough of a hassle that I brought it down and put it onto this Craig rolling tool cart. And I like this setup a lot better. It takes up more space for sure, but it's more usable at this point. I did kind of do 2/3, 1/3 with my under shelf here. So I have all of my CNC tools and a couple other things in this old Craftsman rolling, this tool chest that used to be on top of a rolling tool chest that I kept over there by the drill press. I managed to empty that entire thing, get the rolling part out and put this down here so that I could store bits and CNC stuff in here and get myself just that much more floor space back by getting the rolling part out of here. The reason I did 2/3 for storage and then the 1/3 I left tall was so that I could keep my shop vac dust collection over here, and I have a cyclone separator set up over on the side, so it's just kind of letting me put some of that stuff underneath here that would otherwise just be out and in the way and a tripping hazard. So that is the Gunflint CNC. Now, Gunflint is a sponsor of the podcast. So again, I mentioned the podcast at the beginning. You really should be listening to We Built a Thing. Okay, we've got another Craig table here that I actually have an old, I guess this is a computer stand, but I managed to mount this to the T-track and built a platform to put my computer on so that I can do, you know, design work. I can do CNC stuff. I can do laser work. And over here is my CO2 laser engraver. If you've been paying attention, I have had lots and lots of turmoil about lasers over the years, and I don't want to get into it. So there's the CNC, there's the laser, that is the technology center. And then over here on this wall, this hanging cabinet, this is actually kind of cool. This knotty pine was the kitchen cabinets in my grandparents' old house. When they moved out, we know the people who bought the house, and when they redid the kitchen, they asked me if I wanted the cabinets. So I managed to get some of them stuck in here in the shop, and the rest of them are actually out in the garage. But boy, these cabinets are mostly junk collectors and CNC related materials, different stuff I've bought to test on, cleaning components, you know, lots and lots of mugs and cups and stuff, and then a little bit of storage on top. But I think I'm about out of stuff to jabber about. That completes the long-winded tour around my, I believe this is about 22 foot by 22 foot. It's pretty much just a square. It's a 2-car garage. I keep talking about the other side. That is a single stall garage. So the building is a standalone 3-stall building. 2 stalls are my shop. 1 stall is my wife's parking and my overflow. So that is about it, guys. Like I said, it had been a long time since I'd done a shop tour, and this thing has changed a lot in that amount of time. If I missed anything, if you saw anything you want to know more about, if you saw some furniture, if you saw features, tools, whatever that you want to know more about, I'll either link what I can come up with down below, or again, ask me some questions, ask me for some more. If I get enough feedback about what you guys want to see, I might do a dedicated video on a tool or this or that or whatever. So thank you guys for watching. That's it. How was that for a dramatic pause? All right. See you guys. Thanks.